introduce to you River. Good evening.
Good evening.
Forgive me while I mess with this. And I've jammed it somehow. I never, ever thought that I'd be standing in front of a church talking to people. I am not that guy. I'm a former soldier also, so if I say things a certain way, I'll ask you to forgive me. I have a tendency to use the word hell a lot. Sorry. It's been a hell of a lot. To get to where I'm standing this morning took 24 years. And you can thank Uncle Sam for a good portion of that. Father Doug mentioned the Department of Corrections. I'll tell you that I have a very lengthy history with law, specifically with criminal defense law. So I will tell you that as I move around and I'll have a tendency to look you directly in the eye, it's because I'm accustomed to talking to juries. I'm also accustomed to having to argue with judges and lawyers that never know when to stop talking. So if I talk too much, feel free to tell me. But I want to start by saying something, telling you a brief story that happened just recently with, tell me the name of the church. Miss Paula, what is the name of that church I was at?
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem, thank you. I was at Bethlehem Lutheran, and I have a certain, it's going to sound morbid, but a certain fascination with cemeteries. I enjoy walking in cemeteries. I love the way they feel. And I'm able to go there where it's quiet, usually at night, and I can share my thoughts with the people that are there, and thankfully they never interrupt me. They're a really good audience. And a few weeks ago I was walking around at night at the cemetery near where I live, and the stars were above me, and there was that silver glow from the moonlight, just I don't know what the artistic word would be, but just reflecting off the marble gravestones, and I loved it. And I asked myself, why don't more people walk in cemeteries? Why don't people walk through them like they're parks? And I think a lot of it has to do with superstition. There's nothing going to jump out from behind the gravestone and attack, I promise. And in all the time I've been walking cemeteries, I promise, I've never seen any light shack, or what I don't know what you call ghosts, we'll call it. I've never seen any such thing. So I was walking with Ms. Bolander in a cemetery recently, and she showed me, sir, my mic is not on. I told you I would break this thing. Test.
Red light.
Red light.
You got it?
Usually means stop. 10-4, sorry. But she was showing me a gravestone from a Civil War soldier. And I spent some time contemplating it. Because the grave markers, what they do for me is they literally mark the presence of a person underneath the ground there. Now I know today we do a lot of cremation, but that's a recent phenomenon. Every one of those people had a life. Every one of those people had a story just like you do. They went through their own trials and tribulations. They went through their own joys, their own pains. They had things in people that they loved. They had things that they hated, people that they didn't care for. They've got stories to tell that we will never hear. And I kind of regret that. I'm kind of sorry about that. Because there are stories there that are going to absolutely fascinate us. And we're never going to hear it. But there's a blessing to that too, which Ms. Bolander and I were discussing. There's something you generally see on every grave marker, and that's a name. Sometimes you'll see a birthday, sometimes you'll see a death date, sometimes even a place. But what you never see, ever see, is a label that describes that person. How many people, and I asked Ms. Bolander this, how many people in her graveyard were adulterers? I guarantee there were a few in there. Not pointing fingers, of course, because I don't know many of you, but I guarantee there are some in here who probably did fall into the same ilk. But we don't put it on your grave marker. We don't label a person's life for one incident, for one error. I asked her if there was a murderer in the cemetery, and she guaranteed, that wasn't you, but I think a lady we were walking with.
Right here.
Guaranteed that there was someone in that cemetery who was a murderer. I didn't see it on anybody's gravestone. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. I guarantee if I asked anybody in here if they've ever committed a theft, probably every person in this room has committed a theft. How many people want to jump up and raise their hand and tell me it was them? Probably not too many. I don't think too many people are going to volunteer that information. But if you stole something when you were 12, if you were in a store and stole a piece of bubble gum, you are a thief. Can I put that on your gravestone? Should I put that on your gravestone? No. And I don't think anybody here would argue that that's a reasonable thing to do. Now, I have in my 20 years of law, I am not a lawyer, by the way. I did criminal defense paralegal. I'm not a lawyer. But in my 20 plus years of doing law, I have worked with some horrendous people. I have worked on some horrendous cases. I wrote a brief this morning, it took me 8 hours, on a capital sexual battery case. An 18-year-old young man was spending the rest of his life in prison for a sex offense that no one accused him of. Welcome to the state of Florida. We do that in this state. But should I label that young man for the rest of his life? If he did it, he will wear that label. One of the men that I had the privilege to know, I was present when he was put to death in Stark. I stood within 10 feet of him when the needle was put in, and he was put to death. He was convicted for killing an abortion doctor and an abortion bodyguard. Abortion bodyguard, that didn't make sense. The bodyguard that was protecting the doctor who was performing abortions. And he did so on the express orders of God. And he was convinced he was right. Now here's the crazy part. I tell you that I stood within 10 feet of this man while he was being executed, but I didn't tell you where I stood. I was not in the witness chamber. I was not in the executioner's chamber, and I was not in the room with him while he was being put to death. Instead, I was standing on the floor above him because I was a death row inmate. That's how I learned law. But you wouldn't know that looking at me, would you? The fact that I'm standing in front of you kind of negates the possibility that I was a death row inmate. But I spent 22 years in the Department of Corrections. 3,651 consecutive days in isolation. I did not see the light of day for 10 years plus 1 day. And I did a good chunk of that on death row. Not because I had a death sentence, but because I was considered the most dangerous man within the prison system. Not because I was violent, but because I will outthink you. I will outperform you. With a phone call, I had the ability, and did, have a machine gun smuggled into the prison system. And when I wasn't satisfied with that, I made a phone call. And I had an armed helicopter fly to the prison to get me, because I was tired of doing time. That's fact. That's fact. And that is why I studied law, because I was more interested in coming home than anything else. But I tell you that for this reason. I don't have a label on my forehead. If I had not told you, I don't think anyone in this room would have known. I don't think I sound like an average inmate. I don't think I look like the average inmate. But the fact that I was able to walk out those gates after 22 years when I wasn't supposed to tells me God has a plan. There is no other explanation. None. Now I say that for this reason. I see nothing but adults in here. I have a belief that every single person in this room only achieved maturity as an adult after walking through the fire. Your fire may be different than mine. I hope in God it was. But every person in here suffered in their own way. Every single one of us, and I'm looking you right in the eye saying it. The only way that you can reach your full potential as a human being is to walk through that fire. And that takes courage. That requires courage. Now, I'd like to tell you briefly about my moment of enlightenment, if you'll allow me to use that word. Because I did not start out as a criminal. I started out in a rather well-to-do family in Fort Lauderdale, was given a fantastic education by my parents, and I've seen a good chunk of the world. Sometimes it was on fire, but I've seen a good chunk of the world. I wasn't supposed to be in prison. That wasn't the plan. I simply got caught in someone else's drama. When I got caught in someone else's drama, I made it worse. I made a bad situation worse. And just a free piece of advice as an almost lawyer, if you ever get arrested, don't escape. Free advice. When Paul Hill was being executed, and I was in the cell above him, I had to ask myself that question. How does a man like me end up in a death row cell in maximum isolation? How in the world does that happen? What went wrong? Where did things begin to unravel? And so while Paul Hill was being executed, I mean literally, at that moment, I knelt on my floor, which is something I probably ought to describe in a moment, but I knelt on my floor and decided to meditate to see if I could actually feel his body, or his spirit passing mine. As crazy as that sounds, it's, when you're in an isolation cell after a while, you start to think strange things. But while I was meditating and he was being put to death, I started thinking about things. How did I get here? What decision, what major decision, what is the one decision that brought me here? The answer was there wasn't a major decision. It was a long line of very small decisions that added up. And every single one of those decisions, every single one of those problems that I had, all had one thing in common. Any guesses? Me. I was the common denominator in every one of those errors, every one of those things that went wrong, every one of those problems. I was the problem. And then it all became clear. Those two words that nobody likes to hear in the United States today. Personal responsibility. It was my fault. It was not the judge's fault. It was not the policeman's fault. It was not the prosecutor's fault. They were doing their jobs. They were doing the best they had with what information was in front of them. It was not my mother's fault, not my father, not my teachers. My fault. My fault. But doesn't the same thing apply to you? How many of your problems are somebody else's? Probably none of them. And there's the beauty of it. Because if my bad decisions, that I made the choice, my bad decisions led me to a really dark hole, isn't that the answer? Start making a whole bunch of good decisions. Doesn't the natural consequence have to be a better position? Stop shooting yourself in the foot. Stop being your own enemy. And that's what we do. Unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way. The really hard way. And there's the beauty. All of our problems have answers. All of them. But do you have the courage? Do you have the courage to make it happen? Because for me, what it took was humbling myself. I wrote a letter to my father and told him that I have to change my life. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what I have to sacrifice. I don't care. I'm going to sacrifice it because my life cannot continue like this. There's no hope in it. I contacted a chaplain who happened to be a Zen Buddhist and told him, I need to make changes. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what I'm asked. I will give it. Because you got one shot at life. One shot at life. And when it's over, the game's over. And then you're going to be underneath that tombstone. What will they say about you? Will your life have mattered? Will your life have mattered? Or are you just going through the motions waiting for your day? I can't do that. I want more out of life. I want a whole lot sure don't want to go alone. Courage. That's what I want you to understand. Courage. If you don't like the direction of your life, have the courage to change it. If you don't like the condition of your marriage, have the courage to do something about it. But stop blaming the other person. Start blaming yourself. And there's beauty in that. Because personal responsibility is what it's all about. That is all I'd like to say tonight. I know it's a little brief, but I need you to know who I was and where I was coming from. Next week, I'm going to talk about courage again from a different angle. But in the meantime, I beg you to think about what I've said. What label should be put on your tombstone? And I hope the answer is no label. I don't think any of us want to live like that. Thank you. Appreciate your attention. If anybody has any questions real quick, I'll be happy to take them. I know that Father Doug wanted me to be available for that. Then I will wish you a very pleasant evening and hope to see you next week. Go with God.
It'll probably take a few minutes for us to pass out the Compline booklets. There are restrooms for those of you who are unfamiliar in the back of the church, out on what we call the narthex, on the entranceway. Ladies on this side, men's on that side. So if we need to take a few moments, we can do that.